understanding.
Okay, we are live. Hey guys, it's Jenny Silver. We're doing California EDD live Q&A today, and I have Assaf Lichtash from Pershing Square Law Firm, who is a founding attorney. They specialize in EDD-related lawsuits, appeals-related issues, overpayments, just a whole variety of issues that he is extremely knowledgeable in. So Assaf, thank you so much for being here to help answer people's questions. It's just really great to have an expert here. It's not just a random person from the internet like me answering people's questions. So we really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Good to be here, Jenny. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm a little late. I'm always late because I got caught in the rain. I was telling Assaf this right before we hopped on. I was taking the kids for a walk right after dinner. Figured we had a few minutes. Took them out for a walk, and then it starts raining. We're like halfway around the block, so I had to run home and get less damp. All right, we're going to go ahead and start off with Ocean Blue's question. Ocean Blue says, how many people have had EDD requested return of funds due to incorrect amount put for net income category, and how many have been waived? So for those of you that don't know what this is referring to, the EDD PUA application originally asked for net income, and some people who are self-employed may have accidentally put in gross income, and the gross income is the total amount of sales or transactions that you take in, and the net income is total sales minus all of your your deductions. So there can be quite a big difference there, and that can actually cause quite a problem, resulting in overpayment. So Assaf, I know you have an answer to this.
I do. Thank you to Ocean Blue for submitting this question early, so I had a chance to look it up. So first of all, you got to keep in mind that there's, still, it's a little premature because a lot of these cases are still on their way in. So the data is incomplete, but the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board have on their website a statistics section that specifically gives out the results of and the outcomes of their hearings based on the issues, the legal issues. The legal issue for this one, for those of you who want to do the independent research, is titled Code Section 2102, subsection D4. It's going to look like the number and then in parentheses D and another parentheses 4. And I was able to find between January of 2021 and June of 2021, there were about 800 of those cases with this particular issue. And over 500 of them were favorable to the appellant, and the rest of them were unfavorable. So that means that the EDD, and again, this is preliminary, but what you're seeing from this is that the EDD is denying people waiver where they shouldn't. And so the next natural step for people who get denied waiver with numbers like this is to file an appeal.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for looking that up. I'm going to steal that link from you later and make you send it to me over email. So I have it, and then I can show it visually as well in a follow-up. That would be really helpful. Okay, little Rambo, thank you for popping in. All right, Lena M. If the employer writes an affidavit, they were going to hire you, but due to the pandemic, it was canceled. Should a person write an affidavit as well explaining the situation? I'll give my opinion first, and then we'll hear Assaf's opinion on this as well. The more documentation, the better. With EDD in general, you want to try to provide all the documentation that you have so there's no question available, so that they don't have to follow up for additional information with you. My contact in the media department has stated to provide all documents that you possibly have. So if you have an employer writing an affidavit, yes, also send additional, if you have like email documentation of any correspondence or anything along those lines, as well as an affidavit from yourself. Assaf, what's your take on this?
I totally agree. I think you want to be inclusive rather than exclusive. Because really the worst thing that can happen if you submit documents is that the EDD will deny you. So you're better off just submitting the documents and seeing what the outcome is. If the outcome is negative, then your case is going to be reviewed de novo, meaning from scratch, by the administrative law judge. And most of the documents, or all of the documents that you submitted to the EDD, will stay with the EDD and will never show up in your hearing unless you bring them. So I suggest you try to bring as much as you can to impress on the EDD that you were engaged in self-employment before you applied for the claim.
Okay, thank you. All right, Michael. Hi, Michael. Michael says, hi, Jenny. Feels so good to be back on the live streams. I'm so glad you're doing tonight's stream with Pershing Square Law Firm. They have been great help to so many. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate that. Hopefully you can.
Thank you.
Hopefully Michael will moderate a stream for me upcoming, although I'm happy to have Annie too. Okay, Michael, I hope you're doing well at your job. I'm going to scroll down here. Maria says, my week certification was disqualified. Then 1 week shows as paid and the other says not applicable. Okay, so if your certification was disqualified for 1 week and then it shows as paid, and then so something's happening, there's going to be a reason why you were disqualified. So you're going to have to figure out why that reason is. You're going to need to call in and contact EDD. I know that's hard to do. So if you're unable to get through to EDD, you can try them first, but if you can't get through, you can contact your assembly member, and Annie can drop the link in the chat for how to locate your assembly member. Additionally, if you want to use Claimer to call in, you can do that too, but assembly members are free and they're able to act as a liaison between you and the EDD. So that's kind of my #1 recommendation with that. And then from there, you're going to have to figure out why you were disqualified, and that's kind of the only way to move forward from that. Okay, let's see. William at 702 says, I just hired Charlie from the law firm. Hope this goes well. I'm really glad to hear that.
You're in good hands.
Yeah, and I've had many people on my channel who have let me know that they have successfully gone through the appeals process with your firm, and they've been very happy. All right, Donna at 704 received a letter that states you do not qualify for federal PUA due to failure to provide proof of self-employment. I submitted 2019 tax returns, including my 1099s. Okay, this is really unfortunate, and this is something that I'm getting reported a lot. Yes, I am also getting reports of people that have been approved, that have received confirmations that their documentation is good to go. So it's not all denials, but the EDD is wrongfully disqualifying many claimants that have sent in proper documentation for the proper year. My first recommendation, then I'll hand it off to Assaf, but my first recommendation is to call into the EDD directly, ask to speak to a Tier 2 representative. If you know that you submitted documents that do, in fact, prove what you need to prove and for the correct year, in many cases, my subscribers are reporting back that they are, if they call in and they ask to talk to a Tier 2, that if they get the right Tier 2, will correct it over the phone and fix the disqualified back to paid. Some are reporting that they call in, the first rep won't do it, but then they try again and the second Tier 2 rep does. Now, for those of you that don't have the ability to fix that over the phone, Assaf, what should they do?
Well, I mean, again, I mean, it could be just because I am in the business of filing appeals. I always try to get these kind of disputes with the EDD out of the EDD system because of my belief that they don't have the capacity to fix a lot of the mistakes that they do. You know, who knows why the EDD processes information the way they do? I think you only have to go as far back as looking at how they processed a lot of your ID verifications. I'm sure a lot of you have gone through the ID verification multiple times. I can tell you that some of my clients have gone through multiple ID appeals, not just the verification, the appeals themselves. And we're talking about sending a simple photo ID and a secondary ID document. That's how the EDD processed it. They just said, you're not you, go appeal. So I think a lot of these failures, a lot of these shortcomings of the EDD processing information are kicked over to you because this is your claim. And if you want to take control of your situation, I think the best thing you can do for yourself, and again, that's just my opinion because I really deal with appeals and I see it work, is getting it out of the EDD system and into the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board. I want to point out, Jeannie, I think it's important to point out, a lot of people don't understand that, but the appeals system is actually separate from the EDD. It's a totally different agency, and they work well, and their judges are good, and they're managed well, and we follow them very closely in how they've handled this pandemic. And I can tell you that you are more likely than not, or I could say very likely, to get a fair hearing and to be heard and to likely overturn an incorrect disqualification if you go through the appeal process But you have to, first of all, try to resolve it with the EDD by calling. If it doesn't work out, just go ahead and file your appeal in a timely fashion, get your documents ready, get yourself ready, and you'll have your day in court and a judge who knows the law listening to you with the jurisdiction to change your situation.
Okay, I have a follow-up question for you.
Sure.
What is the time frame that you have to file the appeal by, and is it the same number of days for this PUA work documentation situation? Is that the same time frame that you have to file an appeal by?
Great question. First of all, an appeal can only be followed by an appealable document. An appealable document is a document that tells you that you've been disqualified or that the EDD has reached a certain determination concerning your claim. And if you disagree, you have usually 30 days to file an appeal. The reason I say usually was because this time frame has changed over the course of the pandemic. They moved it to 60, then they reduced it back to 30. So right now it's at 30. It may change. I don't know. There's another wave of the coronavirus. Who knows what's going to happen? They could change their guidelines again. But the point is, when you get this letter from the EDD that tells you that your claim has been retroactively denied, or something's happening with your claim that you don't agree with, that is usually the moment where you have the 30 days to file the appeal.
Okay. Okay, Marianne at 704 says, I missed my phone interview and they disqualified all my pending payments and several weeks where I was already paid. What do I do? You want to take this one?
Definitely. That's an easy one. And you're not going to be surprised. It's appeal. And the reason I say this is because the phone interview, the purpose of the phone interview is to determine your eligibility. Now, it might not be your fault that you missed the phone interview. And quite honestly, when you reach the appeal stage of your claim, the judge is not going to care why you missed the phone interview. It's that the EDD had to make a determination based on the information available. And since there was no information available because they couldn't reach you on the phone or something happened where the interview didn't take place, so they have to work with what they have, which they have nothing, so they're going to deny you. And now the appropriate thing to do is to file a timely appeal.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Moving on at 7:06. You good? I feel like half the time my tech doesn't work or something breaks or a cord comes out or my audio's gone. It's always something. I'm just glad that it's never had like the naked toddler run through. But maybe that would be more interesting than EDD talk. Who knows? All right,
well,
American.
Just give it some time.
All right, 706. I think EDD is sending PUA disqualifications to all, even if you had previously sent in your tax returns. Well, my friend, let me pull up my documentation of showing you what the approval letter looks like. I thought I had it on here. Yeah. Oh, I didn't put it in this folder. Well, I have a video. I have several videos where I show on screen what the approval letter looks like, and it came straight from one of my subscribers. Now, I submitted PUA documentation because I received PUA for a brief period of time back when the pandemic first started. And so I had to submit documentation as well. Now, I have not heard back. I am someone who has submitted what I know is exactly what they want. So if they disqualify me, that I'll be in the same boat where I need to call in and I need to tell them sent that. But they did not send me a letter of approval yet, but some of my subscribers have. I've also taken polls, and I know polls on YouTube are taken with a grain of salt, but people are getting approved. But people are also getting disqualified as well. So if you are wrongfully disqualified, then call in, talk to a tier 2, but you also may need to appeal the decision as we've been discussing here. Okay, Donna Alexander at 706 received a letter that states you do not qualify for federal PUA. Okay, we already got that one, Donna. That's a repeat. Vi7 at 707. EDD paid me only 7 months, and I'm still waiting for my 5 months this year. I never received any. What else do I do now? Okay, so they paid you for 7 months. You're waiting on 5 months this year. From your question, I can't quite tell exactly what the details of your question are. I'm guessing that you are referring to a remaining claim balance that is in your account. If that's the case and you were PUA, yeah.
I just want to say, when you're done, I have a follow-up question. Maybe it will help us understand her situation better.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just thinking if she could go on her EDD online account right now and go to history and check what does the status of those missing 5 months say, maybe we'll get a better understanding of what is happening with it.
Yeah, I think Vi7M, you're going to need to provide additional details in the chat before either one of us try to address this question, because we need to know, have you, check the status and claims history. Is it pending for some reason? Has it been disqualified? Has it been not paid? Have you not received it at all? Like maybe you can't certify and you're wondering if you're going to be able to still certify for remaining claim balance. So let us know down below in the chat box and we'll see if we can get back to you on that one. All right, Adam Shifty 707. How does the contingency work if paid already? Contingency.
It doesn't work. Yeah, contingency, meaning a representation with us, it doesn't work. It has to be some kind of a flat fee arrangement. The contingency only works if we recover benefits for you, because then when we recover the benefits, if we recover the benefits, we take our fee from that, which is also a flat fee. But if there is nothing to recover and we're only talking about an overpayment, it's going to be some type of a flat fee arrangement, but it's lower than a contingency flat fee, and we break it up into installments, and we do everything we can to work with you and reach something that is workable to you. So definitely give us a call if you think that that's something you want to do. Don't let the fee stop you, because at the very least you'll get a free consultation with an attorney about your specific situation.
Yeah, and I'm gonna remind you guys that I have a pinned comment. Pershing Square Law Firm's website, they do complimentary consultations. So if you have questions along the lines of appeals, overpayments, these disqualified issues, call in and get questions answered. They're a wonderful resource. All right, Debbie Hall at 709. Was it not a mistake by EDD to move many to PUA from PEUX for weeks between computer and program upgrades? So why are they going after the fact, asking for backup that may not be available? So during the point in time when there was a lapse in PEUC extension between the stimulus bills, when those bills were passed and signed but not yet implemented in the computer system, there was a very brief period of time where some individuals called in to EDD to see if they could keep collecting in the interim. And EDD, customer service representatives, in most cases, they were trying to be helpful and get people uninterrupted benefits, and they switched them over to PUA. And now they have to provide that documentation because they are on PUA for just a few weeks as an extension to unemployment while those programs are being implemented in the system. So my thoughts on this, it's all a mess. It's all a big mess. Had they not done that with your claim, you would not need to provide that documentation technically, because they're not checking that for PEUC. This is a PUA requirement, but they still want that documentation. So you're still going to have to provide information on why you were, on what your work history was. So basically, you're just going to show whatever documentation you have on that. You're not going to say that you were self-employed when you weren't self-employed. You're going to be providing documentation on what your actual work history was. So if you were an employee, got something loose sock. So if you were an employee, then you're going to be providing your tax returns. You're going to provide an affidavit explaining the situation, etc. Assaf, do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I want to chime in on this. I not to advocate for the EDD, but I want to explain to people why a lot of these things are happening. You have to understand that prior to the pandemic, the EDD was a relatively sleepy state agency that was kind of out of the way. Nobody really cared about it politically. It wasn't in the news. And then this pandemic was thrusted on it, and it was completely and utterly unprepared for this. And just consider, if you're at the helm of the EDD, what an insane crisis you have to manage when, first of all, you are experiencing widespread fraud. You have a system that was developed, I think, in the 90s, so it's completely antiquated and ill-prepared to deal with the kind of problems that it's facing. It has an unprecedented demand where millions of people are all simultaneously filing for claims. You have a shortage of expert staff, which it'll take you a year to actually train in order to deal with the growing demand. You also have new federal laws, which you have to implement into your antiquated system. And the federal laws keep changing because first we had the Trump administration that passed the CARES Act, then there was some sort of nothing in between except for the lost wages assistance. And then you have the Biden administration that passed the second act, and which was had a lot of different functions to it. They get all these directives from the Department of Labor, which they have to actually implement into their system, all happening in live, with millions of people calling, frustrated, angry. The news is reporting all of their failures. They're under congressional scrutiny here in California. It's a complete unmitigated disaster. I do not envy. I don't think the crisis manager who can fix this was born or will ever be born. Okay, this is just beyond imagination. So I'm not saying, this is an excuse for everything that happened. They should have been prepared for this situation. But as you sort of ebb through the thicket of bureaucracy of the EDD, you just have to keep in mind that you're working through a very and fundamentally broken system that was not ready for the situation that you find yourself in. And you have to just muster a tremendous amount of patience and, I would say, some creativity, and to go out there and try to find solutions for yourself, because do not trust them to solve your problem when you need them the most. To do so, you have to go and find the resources like Jeannie, who's been tremendous at putting together all those resources for everybody and pulling it together in a way that is coherent, because it was all over the place, or other places where you might find information to solve your problem. So I'm really sorry you're going through this, but I want you to just remember what environment you find yourself in. It's a broken environment, and you have to rely on your own resourcefulness to fix it.
Okay, Debbie has a follow-up question that I see popped up recently related to this. So how do you expect EDD to rule on these PEUX to PUA to PEUX situations? So in that situation that we just described, which is still on the screen, how do we expect EDD to rule? What are your thoughts on that?
I think I would need more information. It's hard for me to, it's a very broad question. Of course, every determination has different moving parts to it. Could she send me more information about this?
Yeah, so let me give you a scenario, because I know, so if someone was a traditional employee, if they went on PEUC and then they had that PUA applied as an extension for just like 2 weeks, they now they finished up their claim as PEUC. They weren't self-employed. The EDD asked them to provide documentation on their work history for that PUA, that brief 2 weeks that they received PUA. They send in their tax returns for the correct years, but it shows that they were an employee. Do you think that the EDD will reject them based on that because it's a customer service rep, a tier 2, or someone who's going through and analyzing these, and they see that they were an employee and it doesn't quite line up with all of the different things that they might need to provide from this? Have you seen anyone denied from that yet?
One more question. On what grounds do they receive the PUA in between the PUC and the end of their claim?
Repeat that.
On what grounds did they receive the PUA?
They received PUA as an extension. So PEUC had a brief lapse when EDD didn't enter it into the computer system yet for the extension in the winter of 2020 extension period. And some of those claimants who were employees were given PUA as an extension. They weren't self-employed, but the customer service reps were processing it as an extension. Have you seen anyone denied on that yet? Or maybe that hasn't come up yet at your firm?
No, I think this is a relatively, it might be a broad phenomena, but because we're talking about a couple of weeks of PUA that people are going to be liable to pay, it might not be something that comes to the attorney's office because it's a relatively small liability. But with that being said, I want to address the issue here. The only thing that determines whether you're eligible to receive PUA or not is the CARES Act. The EDD is in no liberty to decide whether they give you PUA in order to bridge some kind of a problem they have in their system. And so if they did that, they shouldn't have, and now you were actually overpaid. So the solution to your problem is waiver, because waiver is made out of two components. One, you must not be at fault for the overpayment, and fault is a term of, it's a legal term, so I want to make sure you understand. It doesn't mean that you just did something with the intention of getting paid when you shouldn't have. Fault just means that you provided the EDD with information that, or did something and caused the EDD to pay you the amount you shouldn't have been paid. So someone who experiences that is certainly not at fault because they have taken no action to be paid that. The EDD is the only one that took the action. The second component is you have to have undue financial hardship to the point that you're not able to pay this back. Now, the amount of money that you owe has a direct relationship to the amount, has a direct relationship to the consideration of your undue hardship. So if we're talking about, 2 weeks, and that means like $1,000 or $2,000, you have to be a pretty low earner to be considered as having undue hardship to avoid having to pay this back. So really the only legal mechanism that's available for you to get out of this situation that is not your fault is through a waiver. And again, you have to meet both of those qualifications. So it's a little bit nuanced. So I can't promise you that you'll actually succeed because of the undue financial hardship. It's dependent on what is your current financial situation.
Okay, thank you for those notes. Okay, 7-11. My aunt sent in her appeal yesterday along with her 2019 tax returns, which had already been previously submitted. She sent her 2020 tax return this time too. Is it too late to hire an attorney to help?
So I just want to make sure I understand. So she sent her documents in and she sent an appeal too. So was she already denied? If she was denied, it's certainly a good time to hire an attorney. If you sent an appeal just in case she gets denied, first of all, the appeal is probably not going to be effective because an appeal can only be followed by an appealable document. And if she wasn't denied, you don't have grounds to appeal. So that would be premature to hire an attorney. You need to wait for the EDD to make a decision.
Okay. Okay, Miguel at 7-13. Hi, Jenny. I recently received my EDD letter stating my PUA met legal requirements and no further actions required. I only submitted my 2019 Schedule C form. Best wishes. I can't speak. Good. I'm glad that you are all set with that.
Yeah. Who knows how they work? It's like a sausage factory over there.
Oh, all right. Let's see. Leveling with Maya at 7-17. I was told I have to reapply July 2022 to start receiving money again. My account balance is 0 now. What do I do? My claim ends July 2022. Okay. So if your claim balance is down to 0, there are currently no extensions. All of the extensions, PEUC, Fed Ed, have come to an end back in September. So once you reach 0, you cannot reapply until you reach the end of your benefit year. And at that point in time, if you have earned enough income in order to qualify for a new claim since the filing of your first claim, then you can reapply. So because your claim does not end until July 2022, you cannot reapply until you reach that date. Okay, Pamela at 7-17. Is it appropriate to send in more proof with the appeal letter? Also, any suggestions on how to write the appeal letter? Assaf.
Yes. So I am there's no rule to it, but my approach is in the appeal, I usually like to disclose as little as possible and just send something very perfunctory and basic to trigger the appeal process. And the reason is because at this point in time, you are at a disadvantage because you don't have all the facts in front of you. Once you file an appeal and the appeal is processed by the EDD, it forces them to put together and compile all the documents that they considered in their decision to deny your claim. And then they send it over to the appeals board, which will send it to you. And you'll have a chance to review it and understand in depth, if you can understand a lot of their cryptic, shorthand, verbiage. But you will have a copy of your file and you'll be able to understand what is going on and why they disqualified you. It could be something that will catch you totally by surprise. You might see something there that you didn't think that could be very advantageous to your case, or something that's very damaging, you need to address head on. Marrying to a specific position before you know all the facts is not advisable strategically, and I don't think that's a good idea. Just do something very basic by saying I disagree with the decision. I would like to be heard at a hearing, and just fill out the form and send it out to the address and the notice of the termination. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Lorna at 718, I get paid cash. I have affidavit and some invoices. Do you think that's okay? The EDD's approved they state on there, these documents may be approved. They do include an affidavit. They do include invoices. But I am going to say, maybe this doesn't apply to you, but if you were self-employed, if you're paid in cash, you are required to file income taxes if you earn a net income of $400 or more for self-employment. So if you are at that threshold or above, you are required to file income taxes. Now, maybe you didn't meet that threshold, so you didn't file income taxes. But if you did, send your income taxes, because if you're paid cash and it's over that amount, that is going to be the safest document to send over. If you were over that threshold and you didn't file taxes, then I do want to recommend that you try to get square in the eyes of the IRS before more penalties accrue on that. And then you can send that in as well. Now, if you're not going to file income taxes, affidavit, yes. Invoices, yes. But I would try to send in additional documentation along with those. The EDD states those are approved, but because you're not sending through an official government document, such as a tax return, it makes me a little bit nervous. So I would want to see, in addition to those invoices and an affidavit, I would want to see you send in your correspondence with any clients or customers. Like if you had any contracts in addition to those invoices, if you had any emails, if you had any business expenses, such as a business license, a seller's permit, if you had a website, anything else, to just try to send as much as possible. Assaf, what are your thoughts?
Thank you. Yeah, I think you gave really great suggestions, and I would sign off on all of them. I do think that it is realistic to say that you might still, with even, if you do everything that Ginny tells you, that you might still get denied. And what I would tell you is a lot of the cases that we see come in are people in your situation that don't meet this like cookie cutter template that the EDD has for someone who's self-employed. It's people who are, kind of like freelance workers who do work for themselves or started off a company recently and can't show that footprint that you'd expect to see from a more established business that we end up seeing. And I think it really depends who ends up reviewing your case of the EDD. I think some people would approve it and some people would deny it. But if you do get denied, don't get discouraged. Take your documents, make sure you make a file of everything that you sent in. And again, just like Ginny recommended, the more the better, to show that you are engaging in self-employment, that you are dispensing services, being paid for them. And then if you get denied, you will use those for the appeal process.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Did that one. Okay. Lucia at 722. In the beginning of COVID, I was not able to get through on the phone nor computer system. I'm attempting to get back pay as a contract driver. I sent my information to an assembly member's office. Okay, I think that is all of your question. Okay, so my media contact at the EDD stated that they will still approve backdating if you qualify and if there is good cause for why the backdating has not been submitted up until now. Now, your good cause here seems that it would be that you could not get through, so they may approve it. You're contacting your assembly member's office. Okay, now you couldn't get through on the computer system. Online, it's askedd.edd.ca.gov, and from there you can request the backdating of your claim online. So try accessing that there and submitting that there, but you're already in contact with your assembly member as well, which is always a good route. Okay, Ocean Blue 722. Thanks for answering my first initial question, but I don't understand what those numbers are. 800 people denied, 500 appealed first level N1. Follow-up, what do they do next? Okay, so Ocean Blue's question was the very first one we did at the stream. Let's read it once more. How many people have had the EDD requested return of funds due to incorrect amount put for net income category, and how many have been waived? So I think you're looking for clarification on what those numbers meant that you shared, Assaf.
Sure.
Can you clarify?
Yeah, you actually stated it correctly, Ocean Blue. It's 800 people who were denied by the EDD, who filed an appeal and attended the hearing. And out of those people who filed the appeal, 800, all of them filed appeal, attended the hearing, over 500 were able to get their overpayment waived. And the next step for them is nothing, because they don't have to pay it back. They've won, and therefore the overpayment is gone. And the other group of people, they had an unfavorable decision, which means the overpayment stayed. If you're referring to what is the next step after an appeal, that would be a board appeal. But I'm not sure if that's what you're asking. The bottom line is that the majority of people, I would say actually an incredible number is 500 people out of 800, more than 500 people, were incorrectly basically requested to pay back their entire claim or a big portion of their claim, and that was reversed by the administrative law judge, which indicates that the EDD is doing so in a way that is too sparing, too irresponsible, and merits an appeal. And I would say in each and every case, you really have according to this, more than 50% chance of reversing an overpayment through waiver.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ayuka at 7:30. I didn't work in 2019. I started work on 3/17/20, but stopped on 3/18/20 when the barber shops closed. I received PUA for a week starting 3/15. So now they want me to show proof I was working prior to 3/15. How do I appeal?
So I don't think, can you repeat this question? I don't think I fully understand the facts here.
Yeah, I know. I stalled too. Okay, let's see. I didn't work in 2019. Worked on 3/17/2020, but you stopped 3/18 when your barbershops closed. You received PUA for a week starting 3/15. So now they want you to show proof that you were working. So they're looking for proof that you were working prior to your unemployment claim. But then you're also asking, I'm a bit confused by your question here, because you're asking about that, but then you're also asking, how do you appeal? So it sounds like you perhaps already received a negative decision. So Assaf, can you just basically outline how to file an appeal for this individual?
Yeah, filing an appeal is very simple. There is no specific form to it. You can just write a letter. And you can write a letter to the address on the top left side of your notice of determination saying you disagree with the decision. You want to add your name, address, social security number, and the date of the notice of determination, and just a brief explanation that you disagree and requesting a hearing. Now, you can go online and just search EDD appeal form, and you can download their standard form, and it's fillable, and you can just fill it out and print it and send it out. If you don't have a notice of determination handy, or you don't have the address where you need to send it to, just search the EDD's website for the contact page or section, and you will see their headquarters in Sacramento. That's where you want to send it to.
Thank you. Okay, Ocean Blue question, if not answered already, what is the next course of action after you lose an appeal with the EDD? Assaf, this one's yours.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Your best chance to fix a situation with the EDD is the appeal hearing. That is when you get your chance to testify, bring witnesses if it's appropriate, show your documentation, explain everything from A to Z, even be represented by an attorney while doing that. But if you do not succeed, your only next step is to file a request for a board review. You won't have a hearing with the board, most likely, They're just going to listen to the audio recording of the hearing you had, and they're going to determine whether the judge made an error. And this error is a totally different standard that you don't get to relitigate everything. They just want to see whether the judge lapsed in the way they were using the law, or ignoring important evidence for some reason, or whether there's other defect in the hearing so that you didn't receive a fair hearing, or there's some kind of a due process issue. Those are the reasons they would remand it back for a new hearing, but that is rare. So I would say your best bet is to be ready and do your best at the hearing. But if you can't, the board appeal is your next step.
Okay, thank you. All right, leveling with Maya, 733, Jenny. Okay, so I remember, Maya, you were talking about, can you file a new claim when your claim doesn't end until July of 2022, but you've reached a $0 balance? It's how it is. You have a benefit year, and you have a year's time frame in which to use 26 weeks worth of unemployment benefits. So you don't receive benefits for that entire year of your benefit, that your benefit year ends. You receive 26 weeks worth of unemployment benefits on a traditional claim. Now, previously we had a PEUC extension, we had Fed Ed extension, and then we had PUA recipients who had a longer term, roughly, I think 86 weeks in total. But those programs have all come to an end. So there is no PEUC extension at this time. There's no Fed Ed extension. So once you get down to zero, you have to reach the end of your benefit year before you can file a new claim. So yes, you will not be able to receive benefits until that happens. All right, Trey at 733. I graduated high school June 2020 and never worked. And I was self-employed February of, whoa, that's not a year. 20,202, as I did try multiple small businesses and never made $400, sadly, in those. I do not have licenses or receipts. Okay, so but you did claim unemployment because you were trying to be self-employed. So let's see I think you need to know what documentation to send in, I'm guessing, is what you were getting at here. So if you were self-employed, you were trying to be self-employed, but you didn't reach that $400 net income threshold that requires you to then file income taxes. So you don't have income taxes to send in. You don't have licenses or receipts. So you don't have a business license, you don't have receipts. Do you have any sort of contracts or agreements with customers or clients? Do you have any sort of email correspondence? Do you have a customer or a client that is able to write you a signed affidavit stating that they hired you for some sort of service or whatever it was that you were doing while you were self-employed? Do you have business expenses? Maybe you bought equipment to set up your business. Maybe you built a website. Maybe you have a domain name or something along those lines. Anything that you have, if you have a seller's permit, anything that you want to gather all those documents together, bank statements, whatever. Now you don't have income taxes, but between all those different possibilities for documents, compile those and then also create a signed affidavit from yourself, and then send that information over. Now the EDD says that many of those documents are acceptable. So as long as you can provide something along those lines, then you should be okay. But if they do deny it, which they are unfortunately denying many people that are sending in documents that they say were approvable, then expect that you will need to possibly file an appeal and go through that process. Assaf, do you have any comments on this one?
I'm not sure. No, I don't have any comments.
We're good. Okay, perfect. I'll move on to the next one. Sunshine, 735. I sent my documents on November 15th and haven't heard anything back. Anyone else? I personally sent my documents sometime around November 15th as well. I personally have not heard back. There are many that still haven't heard back, though those approval and disqualified notices are starting to filter in. And I have a significant amount of people reporting that they're hearing back. Many still have not. The EDD does not have an end date that they have announced yet. And I don't think that they are planning on even providing an end date on this. So no, there's many people that are still waiting. Now, one thing you can do is if you log, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say I think it's probably gonna take months, if not more. Could take years because we're talking about
Absolutely.
literally millions of people.
Yeah, it's a big process. One way you can check if you are really worried about something and you want somewhere to check, if you log into UI Online, click on the History tab and move over to the week of payments starting after December 27th. So it's like that first week in January. That's where some people are starting to see their payments move to disqualified in advance of actually receiving the notice in the mail. So if you are someone that wants to try to check things in advance, that's the only real possibility for seeing that. Let me bring that question back. All right, Hung at 7:35. My question that I want to ask is, I was on UI and PEC Tier 1 until November 29th, 2020, and they put me on PUA until September 4th, 2021. I submitted my 5 W-2 for 2019, 2020 with 1099-R. Is that enough? So you submitted your W-2. That 5 is throwing me off. I don't know what the 5 is. W-2. Now, why did you receive PUA? You received UI, PEC, and then they put you on PUA until September 4th. I'm wondering why they put you on PUA until September 4th, because if they switched you over to PUA as a brief extension, like in the interim period before PEC was updated in the computer systems, they should have switched you back within a few weeks. So I'm wondering why you would have stayed on PUA.
It's possible that he stayed on PUA because, they put him on PUA in the first place, most likely because he ran out of money in his claim. So if you are eligible for regular unemployment, you would not get PUA, you get regular UI. But then if you run out of that and you're no longer eligible for regular UI, they would switch you to PUA at some point. And that would happen automatically, I remember, sometime during the pandemic.
Okay, so
that could be the case.
So if you were not self-employed, you submitted 1099, 1099-R, 1099 Miss, and 1099-K, I know. 1099-R, what is that? Assaf, do you know?
I think, isn't 1099-R the 1099 you get from EDD for the benefits paid? I don't think that's going to play any role in the determination.
That's a 1099-G. Yeah, I don't. Okay,
so it's G. What is 1099-R?
I don't know. I'll look it up. Usually I know these things. Okay, so if you are providing documentation on that, okay, 1099-R is used to report distributions from annuities, profit sharing plans, retirement plans. Okay, got it. That's why I didn't know that, because it's not a self-employed thing. Okay. Okay, so no, not necessarily, because that's not going to be counted as income, really. That's if it's annuities, retirement plans, etc. That's not going to qualify you for benefits, to my understanding. Yeah, I see you have something to say.
If I may interject. Okay, so actually annuities might be considered to be wages.
Okay.
Yes. So if you have annuities, they might be considered wages because it's basically deferred income.
Okay.
You could take money. It really depends. It's kind of a more complex analysis. If you want, you can call us for the free consultation. I may be able to take a closer look at your situation. But when you make money and you put it towards something that's deferred and you pay taxes on it later, like an IRA or an annuity, it becomes wages when you when you start using it, when you withdraw it. I think that might be considered to be wages for the purposes of unemployment benefits, but I can't be sure without speaking with you. So maybe you want to give me a call and we'll talk about that.
Okay, thank you. Sometimes I get questions that I don't know. Usually I have an answer. Okay. Glad you have on that one. Okay,
by the way,
let's see.
If I could just, Jenny, my battery is not really strong right now. What should I do if it starts to completely run out?
Okay, so if you cut out, then I will finish up the stream myself. And if you want to log back in, you just use that link that I sent you to access the stream, and I'll see you pop up here, and then I'll add you back in. And if you have to go, then that's fine too, and I will finish up myself.
Okay.
Okay, Ayuka,
No
001, 739. They want me to show proof between 2019, 3/15, 2020, but I started working 3/17 and ended 3/18. They rejected checks. I submitted. Okay, so I remember your situation. You were working, you worked like one day and then the job closed down. You're going to show information from that employer stating that they have to close the business due to the pandemic. That's going to show your intention to work, that you were hired, that you worked that one day, and that they then had to communicate to you that they could not continue your work due to the pandemic. So have them provide, if they did not already provide you a written notice that they were closing and they could not continue to offer you employment due to that reason, provide that notice. Or if they didn't do that, have them create and sign an affidavit. Okay, let me see down here. Thank you for answering our questions and providing such useful information. Assaf, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Agree. Thank you.
Okay, JH 741. I don't have a business license, but I do have a seller's permit. Would a seller's permit suffice as proof of self-employment? So yeah, it should provide proof of self-employment. But also, if you're selling product, you can send in additional things like your tax return. If you're selling something, you can also send in anything that you have in terms of receipts and in terms of business bank accounts, etc. So yes, seller's permit. It's a local government document, so it should suffice. But the more, the better. Okay, Sunshine at 744. I submitted business plans and a letter explaining my situation as to why I couldn't start my business. I haven't heard anything back from there yet. Are business plans enough in your opinion? Okay, this is something that makes me nervous, honestly, is individuals that are sending in the business plans. Additionally, what also makes me nervous are people that are sending in their own signed affidavit with no additional documentation, because it leaves room for a lot of interpretation by the EDD representative that is processing and issuing the approval or denial. So they state that it's accepted, so it should be okay. However, if it is denied, then Assaf, they should appeal, and Assaf can take it from there.
I would just add, Jeannie, I think on its own, probably it's not going to get approved. I think it has to be supported with other information that shows that you've taken affirmative steps to start a business, not just that you've made a plan. Just think about it this way. The EDD is mostly concerned about people who made up their intentions to start a business in order to get benefits when they shouldn't get benefits. You want to set yourself apart from those people. Show the affirmative actions you took to start a business.
Yeah, and so that can include, once you make a business plan, other steps that you might have gone so far to do as if you took out any specific permits, licenses, if you started a website, if you opened a business bank account, if you made any purchases that were for specific materials, goods, or things that you need to do in order to perform your job. If you had any sort of correspondence with anyone regarding potential contracts or things like that, if you paid into any sort of professional services, like I have a studio management software, I have an email marketing list platform, I have a bookkeeper, which, I mean, if you're just starting a business, you won't go that far, but there's just a variety of different things that you will purchase and set up and put into place, subscriptions, etc., that can all kind of help to substantiate that. That wouldn't be strong on their own, but sending in all of that together will help to strengthen that document. Okay, Donna at 745. I have been self-employed for 20 years and my tax returns show that. 1099s and Schedule Cs. How can EDD be saying I have not successfully proved self-employment? I submitted my 2019 tax return. Unfortunately, this is something that people are reporting pretty regularly. Not everyone, people are getting approved, but there do seem to be many errors being made on processing of those documents. Now, if you are able to call in and speak to a Tier 2 representative, many people are reporting that they are able to fix that disqualification over the phone. And some are reporting that the Tier 2 was not helpful and they do then follow up with filing an appeal. Assaf, do you want to speak on this at all?
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, you may recall, Donna, when you had to verify your identity, that you sent them a photocopy of your driver's license and probably some kind of a utility bill, and they may have still denied you your claim based on identity. So you know that some things are there, you know, they're obvious, but they still deny it. We don't know why that happens, but it happens. And I think the key is what Jeannie said: is don't get discouraged. You know, you gotta basically pick up their slack on your own, and that means being proactive, which means filing the appeal and getting yourself ready for it.
Yeah. Okay. Donna says, I think there is a chance the EDD will get this sorted before everyone starts working on appeals. Meaning, kind of, will they go back and take a second look at those who have been disqualified but did submit proper documentation? I don't like to speculate, so I can't say with 100% certainty that the EDD won't follow up on all those disqualifications on their own, but they have not been proactive at any point during this process. I do not think that they would sort that out on their own, so I would try to make sure that you're proactive about it quickly by calling in, talking to a tier 2, or filing that appeal quickly within the necessary time frame if you are going to need to file an appeal.
I have an important side note, please.
Please.
A lot of people think that they may be able to resolve disqualification directly with the EDD if they could just talk this to the right person and straighten things out, and this whole thing will go away. Be careful, because that's how people file late appeals and then lose their appeals because of the lateness issue. Even if you want to resolve this with the EDD, file the appeal just in case on time so that you don't end up dealing with the lateness issue later on.
So, follow-up question to that. If they file an appeal, but they also call in and they're able to get it fixed, could that pending appeal that they filed then kind of like undo the fixed disqualification that they are able to rectify over the phone? Is there any way that that could cause another snag in the process, or is it just best to always file the appeal if in question?
In the land of EDD, anything is possible, but I would say it's unlikely. I've not seen that happen before. What I would tell you is the most likely scenario is if you file the appeal and then you're able to resolve this after the fact, the appeal is either going to be canceled or withdrawn by the EDD, or you'll get a hearing date, at which time you'll just withdraw the appeal by sending a written request to the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board saying that you've changed your mind about it, there's no point to it, and then you're done.
Okay. All right, Patty at 7:50. And I think we have, let's do maybe like 10 minutes more of questions, because I know Assaf's battery is going to die and I'll have to really head out pretty soon.
If he does, I'm sorry.
But maybe we need to do.
I'm going to stay all the way to the end.
Yeah, maybe I need to talk Assaf into doing another one of these. Okay, Patty says, hi, I was self-employed babysitter to my neighbor's kids. She is a teacher, so she stayed home due to COVID. She would pay cash under $400. I never claimed taxes. Now she moved. What can I do? Okay, so you earned under $400 net income in total over the entire year, then you're not required to file income taxes. If it was over $400 net income throughout the course of the year, then you do have to file income taxes. So the way you worded it here, I'm not quite sure what the $400 were, if that was in total. So if you did not have to file income taxes because you're under that threshold, and you now have to prove that self-employment work history, she moved, you're going to contact her. You still, I mean, phone number, email address, etc. Contact her, get that individual to create an affidavit and sign it. And then you also create your own affidavit. Now, if she's paying you cash, did you deposit the cash into a bank account? Showing a cash deposit isn't necessarily going to help back up your claim here, but it doesn't hurt to send along those statements if you were regularly depositing a similar amount regularly, then that might help to substantiate your claim here. Now, additionally, with that, if she was a teacher at a school, if you can prove that that school was closed, then that's just another document to send along there. So you're going to need to contact that individual. So look them up, use every thing you have in order to locate their new phone number. Maybe you have their email address. If they were a teacher, then they would have, well, if she's still teaching at the same school, then in most cases, teachers' contact information is listed on the public school's website. Okay, scrolling down.
I would just add,
Yeah.
I would just add this woman that you worked for, that you work with, did she request that you come babysit for her on WhatsApp or text messages? If that's the case, I think that's also good evidence that, you know, you put yourself out there to conduct self-employed business, and that people were soliciting you to provide services. I think that's another piece of evidence that you can send in there that's going to help you. But I totally agree with Jeannie's advice as well.
Good point. Okay, Christina at 7:54. I skipped my question. You people who choose to read their questions. Sorry, I skipped your question. Yeah, we can't get all the questions, so I do have to skip around here and there. But the best thing to do is just to re-ask it every 15 minutes, because unfortunately, this is the one that I see from you. Okay, Albert at 7:56. My friend sold newspapers one day out of the week, but doesn't have receipts and always got paid cash. He did report to the unemployment department that he made about $3,300 for that quarter, though. So what would he have to do? Go to H&R Block and file his taxes for that amount and pay himself, and then spend his documents that he go. Okay, so you're asking basically what should they do when they did not file taxes? Okay, so if your friend was the self-employed coach of me has to say this, if he earned over $400 net income, self-employment in a year, then yes, he does need to file income taxes. And in order to not have them continue to accrue additional penalties and fees with the IRS, then yeah, I would encourage him to file those retroactively and pay what he owes and get square with the IRS. If he's not going to do that, then he's going to want to, your friend, is it a he? Then he's going to want to provide other documentation. How was he receiving payments? It was cash. How did he communicate? We just touched on this as well. How did he communicate with that individual that he was working for, or customers or clients? There must have been some form of communication between those individuals. So you can provide that. You can also provide an affidavit from whomever he was working for, or customers, clients, etc. If he's purchasing items, purchasing the newspapers himself and then delivering them, or if he's working for someone, there's got to be a paper trail there somehow. Okay. Victor Lamb at 7:56. If someone is uncomfortable including their social security number on their appeal form, can they use their EDD customer account number instead? Assaf, you want to take that?
Yes. Yes, you can. I would just tell you that you need to consider the fact that, you know, the person who's going to process this might not have, I don't know, the nature to understand what you're trying to do. You have to understand that a lot of the people who work for the EDD are new employees that have recently been trained, and, you know, they're kind of programmed to look for one thing. And it's you are taking a risk of not having your appeal properly processed or not processed at all. But your privacy, you know, must be protected, and that you should do what you feel comfortable doing. You shouldn't be forced to do something you're not comfortable doing. With that being said, listening to the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board's monthly meetings, I heard that there is a prototype project they're working on where people can submit their appeals.
Okay, we got cut off from Assaf. I know Assaf's camera battery was going to die. So if he hops back on here, then I will add him back into the stream. But for now, I got to finish up this one on my own. So I'm going to have him, when he does come back in, finish up on that question, since he was mid-thought, and I don't have the same information he has. Okay, let me grab the next one down here. Trey D. This is the start of an incomplete sentence. Well, we'll just start where it lies. Of job applications I tried to sign up for Costco, Target, etc., declining me and not giving me a job during the pandemic. I just want to know if this may work or if it is not enough. Assaf, I see that you're back. Let me finish up this question I was doing, and then I'll.
Is there any echo? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good. Let me finish this one that I jumped onto, and then I'll get back to your prior question. Okay, I tried to sign up for Costco, Target, etc., declining me and not giving me a job during the pandemic. I just want to know if this may work or if it's not enough. Okay, so they are, right now you're listing places where you applied and tried to work, and then they declined your application during the pandemic. What the EDD is looking for is for your work history before your unemployment claim. So not where you were applying while you were receiving benefits, but they're looking for your work history prior to your claim. So when you receive that upload documents notification, that work history requirement, they're going to give you a specific date range wherein you have to provide that documentation. So that date range is not going to be in the middle of your claim while you were applying for jobs. It's going to be before your claim. Now, if you were someone who was applying and couldn't find a job due to the pandemic, they're going to still want to see what you did before during that exact time frame. So they're going to be asking for your tax returns showing your prior employment, not what you were trying to apply for while receiving benefits. Okay, let me go back to that question for you, Assaf. The question that was asked was, if someone is uncomfortable including their social security number on their appeal form, can they use their EDD customer account number instead? That was what you were on, right?
Right, and let me just recap my answer and then pick up where I left off. So okay. The answer was yes, you can and you should be able to do that. You should take into consideration that you are doing something that might cause delays in your appeal. However, you should not do something with your social security that you feel uncomfortable with. It is, a very sensitive number, and we've seen too many people fall victim to identity theft, and the EDD has not been responsible in handling people's social security numbers. So for that reason, I think that is generally a good idea. I was saying that I am keeping updated with the Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board's updates. They have a monthly board meetings. And one of the projects they're trying to spearhead is to have people submit appeals directly to their offices instead of through the EDD. The idea is that the whole process is going to move along a lot faster if you file an appeal directly with the COUTMEIN. I know that some of their offices are running this prototype or whatever this pilot program. You may want to call the COUTMEIN office next to your home and see if they run this. Just ask, for one of the judges and see if they're aware of it. If they're not aware of it, then the answer is probably no. But if they are, you can just go there and drop it off or mail it directly to them, and then you're not just putting your social security number into the ether, but you're actually dispensing it directly to the court, which I think is a lot safer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to do 2 last questions, and then I have to run. We'll see if I can talk Assaf into doing another live stream with me.
I'll be happy to.
In the future. Okay, let's see. Is anyone else here backlogged for their interview? I was told it'll take 4 months for me to get an interview. Yes, the interviews are still taking a long time. They are still extremely backlogged. You are not alone with that. If you are stuck in pending still in your payments or stuck in pending certification, contact your assembly member. As long as you've received 1 or more payouts on your unemployment claim previously, and you've been pending for over 2 weeks, then they can push through the conditional payments, and the assembly members are able to obtain those faster for you. But assembly members are not able, and the EDD calling in are not able to speed up the interview process. They take a very long time, so you're not alone with that. Okay, let me find last question here. I see Ocean Blue.
Hey, Ocean Blue.
Again. Okay. Ocean Blue says, sorry if you already answered it. I'm listening. Okay. Have you successfully fought any appeals where they put incorrect net amount and they won? Have there been any waivers?
I myself, I don't remember if I did that or not. We have a lot of clients, and I don't handle all of the hearings that take place through my office. So I would say it's very possible that we did, but I can't off the top of my head remember. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to get Debbie here. Debbie is a regular. Debbie says, are mixed earners going to beat the PEUX to PUA to PEUX situation as the claim was W-2 based to begin with? Okay, so I think you're worried about having those few weeks of PUA being disqualified because you don't have proper documentation for it. So Debbie, I think maybe that's what you're worried about, that you're worried about having those few weeks disqualified. And then we were talking about the overpayment waiver might be difficult to obtain because Assaf states that you have to, that the EDD states that you have to prove financial hardship, severe financial hardship. And those, if it's a question of just a few weeks, it might be difficult to prove that that's going to be something that needs to go through. So our mixed earners, so someone that has traditional employment income as well as self-employment income, are they going to beat the, I don't know how to answer that. Assaf, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think what she's saying is when you're a mixed earner, I think you're supposed to get both. Well, you're supposed to get both PUA and regular unemployment at different stages. Is that what she means?
Yeah, Debbie, I'm not sure what you're asking here, Debbie. You're going to have to clarify for me. Usually I'm able to piece things together, but I can't quite figure out that one for you, Debbie. So write me a clarification and I'll look for it. I'll stick on here for just a few more minutes. Sorry, Assaf, I told you were done and then I'm pulling more questions.
No.
Should I correct
midnight oil? No problem.
Okay, should I correct my PUA application net income entry to match my my 2019 Schedule C before uploading it? So if there is a discrepancy there, that's something that you should correct anyway, because the EDD asked for net income on that application. So if there was a discrepancy, there was an error for any reason on why you entered in a different amount on your application initially, and it doesn't line up, that's something that I would suggest that you proactively do correct on your own so that there is no room for there to be any sort of a false statement penalty that could not have been avoided by correcting it on your own. Assaf, what are your thoughts?
I actually have, I think, being proactive is very important, and here's why. Let's say that you provided incorrect information, which caused you to be overpaid. But then you fix that information, meaning you sent to the ED the correct information, but they still overpay you. You can get the judge to sever your overpayment from the moment that you provided the EDD with the correct information. That's one thing you could do. Because in order to be overpaid and not be eligible for a waiver, you have to sort of blindside the EDD. But once you've disclosed the truth to them and you say, hey, listen, actually what happened here is this, they can't say that it's your fault for, them, they continue to pay you. They had all the information they needed to determine that they shouldn't have paid you anymore, and yet they continued. And so there's a good argument to be made here that you are no longer in fault and therefore should be eligible to receive a waiver if you can meet the undue hardship standard.
Okay. All right, this is my true last question. Okay, MR at 808 says, what do they ask for? Even when people are sending all the requirements, still they are denying. I am waiting for their response. The only mistake I haven't uploaded 2020 return. I did for I think you mean 2021. What is this? I did for 2019. I'm self-employed. And then it continues on. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I wish you good luck. Okay, and you're worried about those documents. Okay, first off, you need to make sure that you upload the correct year that they ask for in the letter that they send to you. They give a date range. You have to make sure you upload documents that are exactly what they're looking for. So you're saying that you haven't uploaded 2020, but you did for 2019. That range might include 2 different years. So just make sure that what you're sending is in fact what they're asking for. As long as you're sending what they're asking for, in theory, it should be approved, but many are seeing their documents which do prove what they need to see and are for the correct year. Many are seeing them denied. Now that is a decision that for many is being reversed because they are entitled to those benefits. They do prove their work history, and it was simply an error made on the EDD's processing end. Some are able to call in and fix that by speaking to a tier 2 representative, but for others, they need to appeal the decision. And Assaf has been recommending that and stating that the appeals process leaves much less room for error because it is not the EDD that is riddled with glitches and poorly trained staff in many cases. So should you be denied, if you have the documentation, know that it will be straightened out in the end. But that can be a frustrating process, I understand. Assaf, do you have any final thoughts on that before we wrap up for the night?
No, I think you covered it really well. I agree with everything you said.
Okay. All right, you guys. So I am going to go ahead and end tonight's stream. I want to once again thank Assaf from Pershing Square Law Firm for being here with us and for answering so many questions. I also have, Assaf and I did a pretty long Zoom call the other day and talked through some pretty detailed information that he had to share on a lot of different topics. So I'm going to be chunking that out and sharing those videos over the upcoming few weeks. So be on the lookout for those. Assaf's law firm, Pershing Square Law Firm, is linked in the pinned comment, and it'll also be in the video description when this video is done. So if you are someone that is trying to go through the appeals process, if you've been disqualified, if you're undergoing overpayments, if you have a legal problem with the EDD, Pershing Square Law Firm does offer a complimentary consultation. And so if you want to call in, you can get questions answered through a consultation with an attorney. So they're a really good resource. And as he stated before, even if you don't end up following through and becoming a client of theirs, getting that consultation can be extremely helpful because you're speaking directly to an attorney who can answer questions over the phone during that initial call. All right, you guys. Okay, Assaf, thank you very much. You guys, I will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.